Hello, and welcome to Pyro Painting Studios. Today we'll be painting Troy from Zombice Black Plague. We'll go from base coat all the way up to the finishing touches, which will include basing. Step 1, base coat. First up, we're going to go with Codex Grey. We're going to mix in a bit of black to go onto his cape. It's the closest I have to the colour, because I don't have a dark grey at the moment, so we want to make sure that it's close enough to Necromancer's cloak from the Army Painter. So we're going to have an even coverage, make sure there's no thick patches, make sure it's nice and thin, make sure that we get all over the cape and make sure there's no pieces left over. Here we're just making sure that we get every single detail, not to miss any out. So we'll get on the sides and we'll make sure we get in between the legs as well. Now we're just making sure we get underneath so that none of it is missing. So, onto our next colour. We'll have Bugman's Glow. Now we're going on to the skin. So now we're going to thin this down a little bit, and we're going to apply it to all the skin areas, making sure that we've got a good coverage so that we can add our washes, and then we can put on a final layer of Cadian Flesh Tone and Kislev Flesh. So now we go with the Cadian Flesh Tone. Again, water it down. With this, wish I had gone a little bit thicker, but for a tabletop standard, doesn't seem to be a problem with it. So now we're on to Reikland Flesh Shade. Just gonna make sure it gets into all the recesses in between the knuckles, make sure it gets in between the mouth, the cheeks, into the eye sockets. Make sure it's a good coverage. So now on to Night World Blue. I'm going to use this for the shirt. So we need to make sure that we don't go hit the skin that we've just painted. We also need to make sure that we get underneath the arms, as there is a gap in the plate mail, which can be left if not seen. Again, just being extra careful by that flesh, making sure not to hit any of it, otherwise we'll have to go back and redo it. So now we're doing a mixture of Saddle Brown and Combat Fatigue. After mixing these colours, I realised it would be easier just to use the Saddle Brown. Combat Fatigue really only gave it a little bit of a tinge, but unnoticeable at the later stage. So as we come onto the highlighting, you'll see that we use more of just Saddle Brown than anything. So now we're just getting all the trousers, making sure there's no areas missed. Especially in the join by the cape, just so that you can actually see a definitive line between the cape and the trousers itself. At the moment I'm not too bothered about you being too neat, but now we're going to mix up a little bit of that Saddle Brown with Brown Glaze by Vallejo. We're going to do this for the boots. Now after using this I noticed it didn't have the best of coverages, so I had a bit of black just to darken it, to make it a little bit more useful on the boots. So now we're going to Machine Gun Metal. This would be for the the elbow pads, the knee pads, the chest plate and the sword. Again, also to be extra careful not to hit any of the colours we've already done, as in just to make more work for ourselves as we progress. Just making sure to get all decent coverage of all the metal, make sure there's none missed. So now we're onto the hair. This is a basic black, cheap acrylic black. You can use pretty much any. So now we're on to step 2, the wash. With the washes, it's pretty much simple. We'll start off with null oil. Make sure we get it all over that cape. We're also going to use it for the metal and also for the shirt. We're going to leave the trousers on for as it is, due to the fact we're going to use a Agrax Earth shade to colour that in. Simple enough, and we're making sure, again, not to go on the skin. We're over now to step 3, which is the highlighting. So first off, we're going to use Night Moon Blue. We're going to highlight up that shirt, bring it out to colour in all the things, but leaving the recesses. Make sure we get a good coverage. Also off camera, I've put a layer of Kislev flesh on the skin, just to add a little bit more of a highlight, more of a focal point to the features inside the miniature. So now I've put an extra little bit of white into the Night Moon Blue, just to bring out the shade, just to add a bit more of a highlight to the raised areas. So now using Codex Grey, we're going to mix that with a little bit of black first, not too much, probably like a 90% Codex Grey to a 10% black. Just highlight the edges, all the raised surfaces, just so you can see things a little bit clearer, give that a nice little highlight. Make sure we get everything on the shoulder, make sure we get all the creases. And then we're going to go on to a pure Codex Grey. Now, the pure Codex Grey is just for more of the edges, some of the very, very raised tips of the surfaces, just to make sure that it really pops as you're seeing the miniature itself on the table. Again, these miniatures aren't for showcase standard, as I only paint to a tabletop standard, but from a distance on the table, these do look amazing. So we're just finishing off, adding more care to the shoulders. Now going to saddle brown. We're now going to highlight up the trousers. Make sure we leave the recessed areas and only paint over the highest of the peaks. Also off camera, I put a little bit of Ushabti bone around the ankles. Add a bit of an Agrax Earth shade just to bring the colour down and blend it in. So now we're going to use machine gun metal. What we're going to do here is we're going to dry brush all of the metal, the sword, the chest plate, the elbows, and the shin and the knee pads, just to give it a little bit of a tint. And we're going to go over to Runefang Steel. Again, it's just for the edges of the metal, just to make them pop. So we're going down the edge of the sword. We're going to do the insignia on the chest plate, top of the knee pads, and the shoulder pads, just to bring out the colour. And you go back to Codex Grey. Just going to dry brush on a little bit for the hair, just to make the black stand out a bit more. Add a bit more of a focal point to it. So now we're on to finishing touches. First off, we're going to be basing. So you're going to start off with black lines, draw out a simple pattern of flagstone. Very easy method to use, takes less than 5 minutes, and it makes the model really pop. So now we're going to use Ushabti bone. We're going to do one of the stones, 1 or 2, just to make them pop. We're now going to go with Codex Grey. Going to do another one of the tile. We're going to stick to the normal colours that you would expect to see inside of a flagstone. Keep it authentic to the board game as well. Also, once on the board, the bases do blend in perfectly. Now we're going to use the Neb stone. Neb stone, perfect colour for flagstone. Just going to put that down, making sure we're not hitting the feet, as we don't want to undo our work. Just now painting the base, the brim of the base black, as I do with all my miniatures, just to make it so that your eyes are drawn more to the base and the figure instead of the actual rim. So now just making sure that it's all covered. Just double check everything while the paint is drying. Now we'll go over to null oil. Null oil is there just to put it down onto the base. I'm going to put it all the way around the base, around the feet, making sure not to get too much on the feet. And this gives it a little bit of a texture to the stone. Just double checking there, and it looks good. Thank you for watching. If you like these videos, please subscribe and like, and comment below with any questions. Thank you.